Well, here we are at Medstead and Four Marks. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I've been up since about 4:45, and just so that we can walk the track all the way to Alresford. I have absolutely no idea why I'm doing this, but welcome to working on it anyway.
I don't know how he does it. Will has managed to persuade me to come here to Medstead at this unearthly hour to join one of the Permanent Way teams on their Saturday track walk. It needs to be done before the first passenger service, so an early start it is. After meeting the morning's crew, we sit down for a briefing about the day's task. Neil is our pie cow, person in charge of works, and has ultimate responsibility for the work and safety of the team. In a vain attempt to try and avoid any physical work, I've bought a small bribe in the shape of cakes for the team. I'll give Will the benefit of the doubt and assume that they were in the way of his shot, and he wasn't about to scoff the lot. Briefing and tea completed, we set out on our journey down the line. We're on the Alresford walk, heading through Ropley right to the buffer stops at the far end of the line.
Okay, so we're doing the track walk. What are we looking for? What's the procedure that we're going through to do this?
First thing we're looking for is loose or missing track clips.
Right.
Which the engine, the vibration of the engines going over them makes them work loose.
Okay.
So we replace them. We're also looking at fish plates.
Yeah.
At the joints. We do find that they crack.
Okay.
So Neil on that side will look at the inside of this fish plate.
Yep.
The outside of that fish plate.
And you'll do vice
I'll do the
versa.
opposite here,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
So if we find any cracks, we log them.
Yep.
We bring the log back to HQ, and that's attended to as soon as possible.
So we're out here Saturday morning before the services start. Is this a weekly process or is it a daily process? What's the frequency that you do this?
It's in the rule book that we have to do this walk every 8 days.
Right.
No walk, no trains.
Yep. And obviously you're out here, all weather conditions, rain, snow, fog.
Oh yes, we get
whatever.
We get some fantastic weather conditions.
Yeah.
Nice sunny days like today will turn out to be, and also howling gales and sleet and snow.
Yeah. I suppose it takes a while for you to get used to spotting things. It's obviously for me, I'm going along here and I'm trying not to trip over and come a cropper on film, but okay.
It's all a little bit like learning to drive. You're so concerned with the mechanics of it to start with that
Yep.
you've no time to see what's going on around
Yep.
you. With this, it's more or less the same. You get used to the looking here, there and everywhere.
Yes.
We do these walks in 2 sections. There's Medstead to Alresford.
Yeah.
One team goes down that way and the other team goes Medstead to Alton.
Okay.
Right then, it's issues with fish plates, chairs and keys we need to watch for. Let's see how I get on spotting them. As well as Neil and Brian, we've got one other person in the team. This is Richard, and he's probably got the most important job in the gang.
Richard in front is a lookout and he's dedicated to that alone. He won't take any part in the work that we're doing.
Yep.
He'll be keeping an eye on us and the trains
Okay.
and giving us warning if he sees anything that he doesn't like.
All right.
With Neil and Brian forging ahead and me trying my best to keep up without falling flat on my face, we head into the cutting. From the train, you don't get a true impression of just how deep the cutting is and the extent the trees overhang the track. As well as the problem of leaves on the line, there's also the possibility of them falling or shedding branches, which can obviously be a hazard. Although not a frequent occurrence, it's one more thing the Permanent Way team are looking out for and must address before any trains start running. As we left the cutting, Neil and I pause so we can give me a more in-depth idea of what we're looking for when examining the fish plates.
Right, so we're also looking for these.
Yep.
The fish plates, they tend to crack at the top, usually at the top.
Okay.
We're
Yep.
also looking out for the bolts, which also become loose. As it happens, they're all nice and tight, but
Yep.
you sometimes find that with the vibration, they will come loose slightly. And obviously needs some tightening up.
Yeah.
Keys come out as well. That's another main problem that we have to find.
Yeah.
Keys come out. These aren't so bad, the pan locks,
Right.
because they've got the metal at the end. They stay in. This is the old-fashioned one,
Yeah.
which do tend to. They're the usual culprit, which come out with vibration.
Okay. And so obviously we've got a variety of keys. Not are they interchangeable?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
much
yeah.
interchangeable?
These are the modern ones, the pan locks.
Right.
These are the Mills keys, which have been around forever.
Yeah.
With me, now an expert on keys and fish plates, we head off towards the embankment and Wander's Curve. And it's here that Brian and Neil spot our first issue, a fish plate with a hairline crack in it. It's not serious enough to stop trains running, but it does need to be addressed. Although we have a couple of spare keys with us, fish plates are just too big and heavy to carry on the off chance they'll be needed. So we use yellow paint to identify and highlight it and accurately log its location and mileage. This, along with any other faults we find today that we can't easily remedy, will be passed on to another team who will come out and fix them when it's safe and convenient to do so. It takes a special kind of person to want to do this regardless of the conditions, and I'm keen to know more about what got Brian and Neil into volunteering with the Permanent Way Department.
So guys, how did you get involved in the railway and how long have you been here?
Well, I've been here for 19 years, nearly 20 now. I've always been interested in working outdoors, and obviously I've been interested in railways. It just seemed sort of natural thing to do. Come down here. Started, say, about 2004 on the P-Way, and 19 years later I'm still here, still walking the line, as they say. So I enjoy it.
Good. What about you, Ron?
Well, compared to Neil, I'm a newcomer. I've just finished my 8th year. When I retired, I always fancied doing something like this because I wanted to be outdoors.
Yeah.
The railway has always had an appeal for me, but I was rather put off by the thought that I might be amongst a bunch of train spotters.
Yeah.
But nothing's further from the truth.
No.
We very rarely talk about railways, apart from this one, of course.
Yeah.
The conversation flows wide and free.
Put the world to light, basically.
But it's the outside bit as well, the exercise.
Yeah.
And while you can do it, I think you should do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you'll lose it.
So yeah, good camaraderie, friendships that
Yeah.
are made
Very
over
much
the
so,
years. Yeah.
And we quite often go off on day trips and even holidays. A bunch of us will go off to different railways, either up in Yorkshire or down Devon, wherever.
And you obviously, I assume you don't need any previous railway skill to come here. It's all learnt on the job,
Yeah,
as
very
long
much
as you're
so,
willing
yeah.
to, and you understand the ethos, so you
Yeah,
pick it up.
yeah. Well, I didn't know much about railways when I started here. I guess I knew what chairs and fish plates were, but that was about it. Didn't know there was different kinds of fish plates. Didn't know there was different kinds of joiners and chairs and things. But you can pick it all up. There's always somebody that knows and passes it on.
Yeah, Permanent Way is always fascinated me as well. That you're out in all weathers and all conditions, and
Yeah.
the physical work that you've got to do.
See, it's nice on a day like today,
Yeah.
but if it was pouring down with rain and blowing a gale, we'd still be doing it.
Yep.
We don't think, oh, we can't do it today, lads, it's a bit wet. It's got to be done, so
Yeah.
off we go.
And obviously you've got a requirement, an obligation within the rule book, and I assume whatever light railway order or whatever we run under, to be able to have to do these things.
Yeah, you have to do it every 8 days. It's part of our rule book and therefore part of our safety case.
Yep.
So if we don't do this inspection every 8 days, the trains can't run.
No.
One of the team's responsibilities is to ensure the point work is kept oiled. They can't just use any old oil for this. It needs one that is resistant to the harsh operating and weather conditions it can be subjected to. This is stored in line-side cabinets that, interestingly, were made by Neil, who cast them in concrete. As we pass through Ropley, the day's locomotives are heading out to collect their coaches. Whilst we're focusing on our duties, Richard, our lookout, is concentrating on monitoring their movements. His role is a vital one in keeping us safe, not just in the stations, but throughout the duration of the track walk. With the sun now out and us on the last leg of our walk, I can begin to reflect on what I'd learnt today. I knew we'd be looking for problems, and I'd fully expected to be encountering missing bolts and keys. What I hadn't expected was the level of detail the inspection went into and the concentration needed to do it. It takes a keen eye to spot cracks in a chair or fish plate, and I was amazed at the team's ability to pick up things on the move that I'd never have found unless I'd stopped at each and every sleeper. A track walk on my own would have taken weeks, not hours, and I'm still not sure I'd have found everything the team did. We're aware we're likely to encounter the up train before we have a chance to get to Alresford, so Neil, as pike owl, makes the decision to pause briefly at a point where we're able to remain well clear of the running line. If we continue much further, we risk being in the cutting where there's limited clearance and exposing us to a greater risk that is necessary or acceptable. It's another example of the professionalism I see every time I come to the railway. With the passing of the up train, we continue into Alresford. Will, obviously guilty about all the cake he's eaten at the start, did the decent thing and bought everyone breakfast. A fine man, Will, and I take back all the things I said about you behind your back. The gang had a little more to do, but up at Medstead they were working on an issue highlighted on a previous track walk, so Will and I jump on the next up train and ride the cushions back to take a look. Back at Medstead, I have the pleasure of meeting Tony, who takes me up the line to where they're changing the types of keys used on the check rails.
At the point, we have a small rail called a check rail.
Okay.
Helps to guide the locomotive over the points in a safe manner. They're held in like the track with a key in chairs. Well, the keys that are currently fitted, called pan locks, are not really suitable for that job.
Okay.
They don't hold the rail securely enough. So we're going to change them for a slightly older style of key called a Mills key.
Okay. Right.
What ideally we would be putting oak blocks in these,
Okay.
but they're not available at the moment. So this is the next best solution.
Okay.
It's been an interesting and varied day, starting off seeing how faults are found on the track walk and then the rectification process that we saw being undertaken at Medstead. As you sit in your comfortable carriage on the first service from Alresford on a Saturday morning, look out for a group of people in high-vis clothing, relaxing outside the West Country buffet, drinking tea and eating bacon rolls. The track you're about to ride over is safe because of their commitment, dedication and willingness to sacrifice their Saturday morning lay-in on your behalf. So, don't begrudge them their breakfast. They've earned it. Our thanks to Neil, Brian, Tony and Richard for their company, kindness and patience. It was a pleasure to spend time with you, look around and see what you do. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you next time.